7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The March 13th of the Norfolk Advisory Committee is now called to order. I'll take a roll call. Brian Beachkowski.
Here.
Rob Garrity.
Here.
Mike G. Here. Joyce Terrio.
Here.
Jason Craig.
Here.
Jonathan Hurwitz.
Here.
Melissa Sear.
Here.
And Ken Fitzgerald.
Here.
David Lutz is here, and there are too many of you now. I'm having a hard time keeping names. In all seriousness, Erica, you and I should chat. We used to get nameplates.
Okay.
And it's actually helpful for people who are on TV and can figure out who we are. Jonathan and I and Joyce probably have nameplates somewhere in town hall.
I think
Brian.
I have a couple.
No, it has not.
I'll look.
Yours might say chair though, or something like that. No. Did you guys swap them out? We swap all. Okay. So we've got an agenda tonight. We're going to hear from the Community Preservation Committee. And I talked to Cindy about an hour ago and she said she was going to be here. So I'm concerned that she's not. In the meantime, we can deal with the minutes that we have to go through. There are two sets of minutes that Brian was responsible for. And then our new clerk, Ken Fitzgerald, has a set. So Brian, why don't you make a motion on the two that you have, the individual motions on the two that you have?
Yeah, first I'd like to move that the minutes from October 17th, 2023 are approved as sent out moments ago.
Can I get a second?
Yeah, I haven't gotten them.
So
And yeah.
They're in cyberspace.
maybe I need to back up a bit and refresh everyone on the purpose. We have a policy and we can talk about whether we want that policy or not. That the clerk's job is to review them and make any recommended changes. And technically, the way our policy works is that we can accept his recommendation on adopting or not. We don't necessarily have to review them. We are trusting our clerk to deal with that. If that's an issue for anyone, we can talk about it, and I would rather not do it at great length now, but is that an issue for anyone?
Maybe for me in this one case, simply because one of the minutes was from a meeting I was not able to attend. So
Okay.
I read through them. I actually had a correction for some minor typos, but I did not, I could not verify.
Is that the one that's pending right now, or is that the other one?
That is the one that is pending right now.
You want to withdraw and we can take a look at that? Someone who was at the meeting can take a look at it?
Yes,
And
let's do
do
that.
the
I
other
saw those earlier and they were,
Okay, you were there? Okay.
yeah.
So our new clerk has read them.
I defer to the new clerk.
So we have a motion and a second on that. Did we get a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye, okay, sorry. Minutes are adopted. Brian, what's the second set?
The second set is from November the 1st,
Okay.
as distributed.
Okay, can I get a motion on the minutes from this November the 1st? Which is the
Motion approved.
second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Those minutes are adopted. Ken, welcome, our new clerk.
Very excited. I was one meeting too early. Now there's even newer members. I've got the meeting minutes from March 6th. Make a motion to accept those.
Second.
I did notice one thing, which is there was a discussion about the turf field and it mentions it's Freeman Kennedy, but it's actually KP. So,
Oh, did you pick up on that?
No.
okay. Anyway,
So,
so we should, with that change, I would make that change.
Okay.
Yeah.
motion to adopt the minutes as just amended. Motion.
Motion to
Second.
adopt it.
Seconds.
Second.
All in favor of the motion to adopt the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are adopted. Tonight, we are going to hear from Cindy Andrade, the chair of the CPC, regarding the CPC articles. Ann Proto from the rec department has joined her. Many of these are their minutes. I mean, their minutes, their articles. If we can find spots at the table, folks, you can join us up here. We'd like that to happen.
Got some chairs over there. You can just pull up.
Sure.
And then there's a seat here.
And they can sit next to me if they want.
And with that and the light diminishing here, I am going to drop if there's a quorum, so I
We have
appreciate
quorum.
that.
Thank you,
Thank
Ryan.
you.
Next, can I sit next to Mr. Garrity?
Sure.
Okay.
At your peril. Hold on. Is it my breath?
I'm not on TV over here. I'm on with you, see my hands.
And has successfully moved off screen. Actually. We have 5 articles and there's a list. The first one on the list is the annual distributions. Cindy, if you could describe what this article does.
These are 2 standard articles that appear every year. So the orders are, one of them is the 10% allocations from our, the state monies and the matching town monies, or the town monies and the matching state monies, excuse me. Each of which go into either, historic resources, open space and recreation, or affordable housing. Every year, technically, we have not voted these yet, but we will do so tomorrow.
This is required by the state.
Required.
When we adopt the CPC, we're required to do those divisions every year.
Yes, and the remainder of those 30%, the remainder goes into an designated fund, which can be used for any of the allowed uses.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay. Article 2 is the administrative expenses for the CPC.
Same standard article every year. We have been putting in $15,000 because we never really know at this point exactly how much it is. We are allowed to use up to 5% of our revenues for, excuse me, for our administrative budget that incorporates our assistant, mailings, advertising, sometimes appraisals and other due diligence issues.
Have you
Supplies.
ever hit the 15,000 and have you ever had to ask for more? I have some strange recollection that it was higher at one point.
It was higher at some point, but when we went to a lower match, a 1% match, our annual revenues came down. And therefore, we brought down our allocation. As far as I know, the town accountant adjusts the 15% to accurately reflect 5%. We just kind of over budget for now until it gets adjusted by the town.
And then it reverts
Yeah, then
to the undesignated fund.
exactly.
Anyone have any questions on that? Okay. The third item is the Affordable Housing Trust. There was some indication that Sue was going to be coming.
She said she was gonna bring her home because she's.
Not here, so we'll skip that one for now. The fourth one is the Mirror Lake Phase 2 sediment analysis. I will say, folks, we don't have the language on any of these articles yet. So we're not going to make any motions on them. We're not going to move them tonight. We're going to have to look at, I don't think we can until we actually get the official language, but either way. I understand, but the selectmen and the town council need to make sure that that's fine. So we reviewed a similar article last fall, which was pulled, which was IP'd or pulled even maybe before the meeting. I can't remember which.
It was IP with the meeting, but basically we had already agreed to have it IP.
Right. Can you describe what the article does?
The Friends of Mirror Lake came to us They had done a phase one sediment analysis to see what was there because the lake is undergoing eutrophication, which is a fancy word for going in. Getting a lot of silt on the bottom. Their initial phase one, from the best of my recollection, showed that in some cases there is so much accumulation on the bottom that the lake like seems to be 10 feet deep, but it can be 20 to 30. That's how much is built up over time. It varies in different portions of the lake. Around the coves is particularly bad with weeds. In the past, we have this town and Rentham have approved weed treatment programs, but that's kind of a stopgap measure that will have success for a few years, but once you stop the weed treatments, eventually it'll grow back. And the only way to theory is that the only way to stop all of the weed growth, or the majority of the weed growth, is to have a deeper depth of water so that the sunlight is not reaching the seeds and the weeds to regenerate. So this is something that Friends of Mirror Lake has brought forward. They did their phase one. It was pretty clean. There wasn't a lot of sampling. They would like to do a phase two, which involves a lot more sediment sampling to make sure there's nothing nasty in there. And the ultimate goal, if the phase two sediment analysis is successful and doesn't show anything undesirable, would be to apply for some kind of a bottom removal treatment. They are thinking potentially dredging, but their proposal to us has stated that that would not be borne by the towns, Rentham and Norfolk. Instead, they would be applying for state and federal funding. Our share is 15% of the lake, which is $33,000. Rentham's share would be $187,000. Rentham to, I don't know where they are. They've applied to the CPC there. I don't know where they are on the process. I do not, of course, know whether Rentham will or will not approve their share. However, that being said, if Rentham does not approve their share of the total sediment analysis, Norfolk would not go through. So it would, Rentham doesn't move forward. We will ultimately not move forward, even though these funds would be reserved for the sediment analysis. If it does not occur, it will revert back to, in this case, which could be unestimated reserve. So it's not like we're gonna do our portion. It's all or nothing.
I was about to ask that exact question. Is it all or nothing in the other direction too? Like if we say no, given the fact that they have
I was just
85% of the lake.
So, but I obviously cannot speak for them, but as far as I know, it's an all or nothing.
Right. It would make sense. We had some concerns last time, and I did speak with the conservation agent for the town and asked her to produce an analysis for us. There were some concerns. One of the concerns that happened last fall was that what happens in the phase two analysis, what they find, ultimately the dredge spoils, which is what comes up from the lake, is supposed to be dried and then land applied. So what is in the dredge spoils is potentially problematic. So the long-term potential impact is big. This does not authorize dredging. It just authorizes testing, another deeper testing, further testing, broader testing, I guess would be. Deeper is not the correct word. Broader sediment testing. So I've asked her to prepare that for us. We'll have to review that and before we act on it as well. But
and to be fair, last time,
yep.
The DPW also had some concerns about equipment going into the lake for the sediment analysis. And speaking from hearsay here, but my understanding is that their questions were answered about the fact that the dam would not be impacted, they would not be settling near the dam, and they would not be running equipment nearby the dam. That is hearsay on my part, it's what I have been told.
Dredge equipment, not the same, not, oh, really? Okay.
They're gonna like steer clear of the dam, period.
And we control the dam. That's
We control
the issue
the
there
dam.
is that
That is
our
the issue.
DPW controls the dams.
So Alan Finning works for the DPW and is also our conservation representative. Told us at the either the February or the January meeting that Blair Crane had been involved. There's a meeting in January amongst many people, and he was satisfied that there would be no adverse impacts on the dam from this particular project.
Anyone else have any questions? I think we're gonna have to schedule a discussion of this when we have the condemnation agents analysis and maybe a better sense from Mirror Lake. And also I'd like to hear that, as you indicated, it was secondhand. I'd like to hear that from the DPW that they're comfortable with this.
I will certainly ask for something in writing if you'd like me to.
Uh,
Or you can.
Some question?
yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I know you said beyond the testing, were they to take action at present time, they wouldn't be looking to town funding, they'd be trying to secure state funding, correct? Okay. Has anyone looked into whether there's state and federal funding available for the testing phase?
My recollection is that they said that they had to do this before they could apply for any state and federal funds.
My recollection of the state pond management program is exactly that. Okay. I don't know about the federal, but
That's where they only really address the state, but they think they are eligible for state and federal.
Okay. Thank you.
any other questions?
Just general, we kind of covered this already, but I just generally recall last year that it was sort of out of sync about who saw this when, and that's why we ended up pulling it. But, you know, the conservation agent hadn't been involved or something like.
There was some of that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's
That's okay.
And-
That's all worked out, I assume.
we
Yeah.
didn't.
I think,
She should have been involved, and
and
honestly, CBC didn't think to involve her.
Okay, but that's all. We're all.
that we're,
That's all.
we're working on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a large, fairly good sized meeting in January. With the DPW was there, I believe our town administrator was there, Caitlin, the conservation agent was there. The Mirror Lake representative Doug Surratt was there, and their engineer that they're using, they had a large discussion. So to get everybody on board and be fully informed.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
The next article is potential Article 18, Freeman Kennedy restoration of field lighting, and I'll through Cindy ask Ann to speak to that. Does it work for you? All right.
Hi, everyone. Ann Proto, Recreation Director. So if any of you are familiar with the old football field, it hasn't been used as a football field for, well, it has not been used for tackle
Since at
football.
least a decade.
Well, not
Or,
quite.
not quite, but yeah.
It's quite close. It does, time goes by. But we actually have a very active flag football program that we use for that field. It's also the softball field, a large softball field. So there had been lights there for many years. When the new school was built, the Eversource disconnected the
Really?
the power. So that's when actually Vikings football was still there, and they were using generators for at least a couple of years. Moving forward, and now as part of putting in the new well at Freeman Kennedy, which is in now, and we are actually switching over, like the football field was on town water, it's not on town water anymore, it's going to the well, so that's great. That required quite a bit of electrical work, including reinstating and putting the high voltage power back to operate the well. So we have the power now. So we have a dated system, to say the least, of wooden poles, but we have several of them with several lamps on them. They are metal halide lamps, and they are not nearly as efficient as LED. However, to rewire those, which we've worked with Peter Diamond and Island Lighting to rewire the lights, which would be wired above, not below, because we don't really know what's below, and we don't want to take that chance. For a fair amount of, very reasonable amount of money, we can generate the lights, and which would also include replacing each of those bulbs that is there now. CPC did ask us to look into LED, moving to LED. However, and Jim O'Neill from Island Lighting was terrific about addressing that. And he said, it seems like a great idea, except you can't just take a metal halide bulb lamp out and put in an LED bulb. It doesn't work that way. And, to put in LEDs, we are talking, I don't want to say $1 million, but part of me wants to say $1 million. I mean, it's a lot of money, certainly way more than 50,000. And we also did an evaluation of how many hours we would be using these lights a week, and they'll be very beneficial early in the spring and late in the fall, which will be terrific. But it'll be about maybe 10 hours a week. And for the amount of power that we would be, and the cost of it, it's less than $200. It came out, it was like $175 a week if we use them for all 10 hours. But it would give us, we're short of fields. We can always, there's a lot of use on our fields, and we have spent a lot of money maintaining our fields to keep using them. And so to be able to use a couple of fields that we don't use as much as other fields, such as the fields that are lit by these lights, would be very beneficial.
When you said everything above but not below, that means you're not, the wires coming out of the ground, the only work that'll occur will be above ground. You're not going to dig anything up. Is that what you meant when you said?
Yes, instead of the wires going underground from pole to pole, it'll go like the old.
So it'd be like a street light.
Yes, like you've got a house with a wire from the pole to the house, old fashioned. That's what it will be like.
Can I ask Peter a question?
Absolutely, please.
Peter, you're involved in this project?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Just from an inspection point of view, and also I'm a member of the CPC.
Yep.
So to address her question about overhead and underground, I felt that those underground wires were there for so long, maybe 30 or 40 years, and they're working at high voltage 480 volts. I felt it was safer for the public that uses the field to abandon the wiring underground and to rewire them. Jim O'Neill felt that it was more cost effective to wire them overhead. Does that answer the question?
Right up to the point where, and I think you've sort of answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Sure.
Wiring overhead is code. Then you can do that.
It could go underground or overhead.
Overhead, you can do the overhead wiring, and that'll
just like you see from pole to pole on the street as you drive down the street.
It's the same application. I didn't know if like private installation.
Aesthetically, it probably won't look as good as everything
right
underground, but to dig up the field and run everything new underground would cost a lot more than stringing wires from pole to pole.
I have one more question about this. So the use of the field, you said you have a flag. It's used for softball?
So it's a combination. There are actually several holes, and it's not just the football field that's lit. But the outfield of the large softball field is the football field. Football field is generally, at one point, was considered a fall sport, and softball a spring sport. They cross over a little bit more now, but so they utilize both. So softball can use it, flag football can use it. We can have practice for field hockey. on different times. We can just have a lot more ability to work the schedule for everyone.
I'm doing this because I have some knowledge in this area. Does the flag football use it as consistently as the regular football did in terms of practice? Because they were on there every night, 5 to 6 days a week.
They were, a little bit different between tackle, and we have, our grade is from K through 6,
Okay.
not the older kids.
It's more like recreational soccer than it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a recreational flag football league, but we're probably gonna have 180 kids this
Great.
year, and
That's great.
we had 140 in field hockey, and we have KIPSA plays, and the high school uses the field H and the field in the back, which can be lit for practice in the fall. And
Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Rob.
Just out of curiosity, do we know the state of the fixtures?
so that's a great question. We know that some of them, so when you say the lamp, or do you mean the lamps or the actual?
Yeah, the lamps.
Okay, so the lamps are questionable. So the cost that we put into this, and actually CPC requested this, originally Jim quoted replacing up to 10 of the metal halide bulbs, lamps. I'm not sure the correct term.
I think Rob's asked about the metal fixture that the bulb goes into as well. Is that what?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all, yeah.
That's what she's talking about.
Fine, okay.
So all of them are, that quote, the new quote is replacing all of them. It's about $100 a bulb.
Yeah, originally,
We had 10.
they had 10 and one of our members suggested, let's just do them all because they're all of the same age. And if, so many are already out, it's just gonna be a matter of time before the rest of them go, so let's have them all be.
And we haven't lit them. I mean, if they had been lit a year or two ago, I think there would be a little more security that at least most of them would work, but it's been a while.
Rob, follow up?
So I'm not being hostile, but, so the $1 million figure, I mean, yes, if you're actually putting wires underground and putting up poles, that passes the smell test. But if we're gonna be replacing fixtures anyway, LED fixtures, even stadium lighting, you may be talking about $1,000 instead of $120.
So that specific question was asked to Jim, and he said, you cannot do it. It's not a one-on-one. It's not like changing a bulb. His example was, you can't change a bulb at your house.
So I did 8,500 LED streetlights in Newton as the project manager, essentially.
You needed
So-
that, didn't
Huh?
Never mind.
And we did 8,000 streetlights for 2-point-something million. I'm not trying to pick a fight. It just sounds to me, because I just, Dr. Google, pops up all these stadium lighting options, and both conventional and LED, we're in the same neighborhood. And I don't even care.
So
I think to follow up on Rob's point, and also for clarification, you're replacing the entire head that's on the top of the pole, right?
There's several bulbs that go on each pole.
So there's bulbs which screw into
But is there,
right? These are
thing that they
fixtures, the
screw
whole
into,
thing.
are you replacing the fixtures, which are the things that the bulbs screw into, and the bulbs, or are you just replacing the bulbs? Because if you're replacing the fixtures, I think Rob is making.
If I might interject through the chair,
Sure. Yep.
Peter Diamond. So he's not replacing any of the fixtures.
Okay, I thought.
Okay.
Fixture, the fixture is a 3-part. You have the fixture, the lens is part of the fixture. You have a ballast, and you have the lamp.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's
All right, okay.
not replacing the fixtures. He's only replacing up to 10 ballasts if they need it. And the committee, the CPC felt it would be better if we replace all the lamps while he has a boom truck up there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And Jim's opinion, and I'll go with his professional opinion because his thing is putting in lights on fields, that to replace fixture for fixture with LED, you would not get the same light output
I agree with
that
that.
you do.
Gave a great example.
I agree with that as well.
He did give a great example.
You don't get the same.
One of the,
You don't get the same lumens
Yeah.
Exactly.
in the beam spread.
so the example he gave was he said, parking lots everywhere. Everyone here is LED and they're all trying to retrofit LEDs in. And what happens is that you go into this, these big parking lots and they're dark spots.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the night after I drove into Star Market or Shaw's and they retrofitted that parking lot and you can see their channels with their.
Well, they did a crappy job. LEDs are very trainable, but you have to buy a different fixture to get a different
Right,
light.
exactly,
Right.
yeah, right, which people aren't doing.
These are all LED down,
Yeah,
and they did a great job.
there are plenty that do,
Right.
if they're all put in at once and they all match up and supposed to fit. But it was interesting because you drive to the Shaw's parking lot, you see.
Oh, yeah.
Lighting, but then if you go to Big Y, which was installed with the correct fixtures and the lights, it's all lit.
Like, I would never recommend we use LED streetlights here, because we place our streetlights way too far apart. You'd have intense brightness for this amount, and then you go back to the dark, and it would be really stupid. So LEDs aren't perfect. That didn't sound right, the $1 million.
Well, it is the whole, that is the whole.
That would
system.
be like
The whole Musco
shebang,
system, yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Does anyone else have any questions? Jonathan?
So, thank you. I know we certainly previously had lights there, but since they haven't operated in many years, is there a consideration for now the neighbors and abutters in terms of can they / will they object to light, number one, as well as activity after hours, whatever the time that may be, number two? I know there's not too many abutters because it's mostly the T-tracks back there and woods.
There's one
But
abutter.
there's a handful of houses that certainly would be able to see the lights, even if not direct abutters to the property.
So the recreation had, the policy is that we finish by 9:30 and they're off the fields at 9:30. The abutters, there are woods between the field and any abutters. There's no clear view. There is one that's fairly close, but the others have considerable amount of woods between them. And it is the same abutter that has been there for many years.
And I would expand the, direct property line of abutter to say that I don't know the address, but there's a house right on the bend on Boardman Street, right where Boardman turns right before if you're coming from Seekonk, you go around the right-hand bend and then you can take a left into Freeman. There's a house on the right directly on that corner, and I guarantee they can see that field and see the lights. So I'm just, the reason I'm asking, right, is, a small number of people can certainly be very loud, and if they haven't been, I'm not saying I don't know if it requires permission of the abutters. I don't know if that's the case, but at the very least, if they aren't advised that it's happening, right, or consulted in some way, I'm throwing it as an open-ended question. Should we be doing that and get ahead of that so that they're informed, rather than when they see the trucks there installing the lights that are going to be shining in their house? Like, is that a concern? Is probably the question.
That's a great question, and we can certainly reach out to the people that I know that are in I think if I'm thinking of the same house that you are, it's the same people that were there when football was going on, and the lights are not going to be on nearly as often. I mean, when we said 10 hours, that'll be the maximum amount of time, and I don't think we will even be there till 9:30. I mean, there might be one night for softball, but
for better or worse, they probably get a lot more light from the parking.
Yeah.
The field,
Yeah.
because those lights are directed down. At the
Yeah.
fields.
Also guessing there'll be less fans there than there was when.
right, it'll be a lot less. Yeah,
If you could, that would be great.
yeah, I'd be happy to.
Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks. And then Article, man, this is small type. Article 19, Freeman Kennedy irrigation system expansion, which I think we just heard a little bit about. It's just one of the reasons the power was reconnected.
Yes, so the power was reconnected. That was a wonderful COVID project. If anyone ever told me that it would take a year to get Eversource there, I wouldn't have believed them, but it did. But the power is working. The well is in, the well is working. Our first goal was to get the football field that was on town water off town water. So we can use it again. That is done. And the next step is to irrigate field H, which is the largest soccer field we have in town, actually. Lots of times people, and Pond Street's wonderful, don't get me wrong, it's wonderful. But our largest soccer field is at the Freeman Kennedy Fields. It's actually where the high school practices. We all share fields. And field H is the largest. It's a very healthy field, but when we have summers, not like last year. Last year, we could have done without some of the rain, but the year before, it browned out.
Yep.
I mean, it cost to reseed after that summer was, the seed alone was $10,000. That's how dry it was. So we would be where it's 5 lines straight down, and then field I is perpendicular to that, and it butts up against the conservation land that they have given. Eventually, we've talked to conservation and we'll be expanding into that area. They've said that we can use that for field space, but also create some meadow there. Again, this is down the line, but we are putting in the irrigation in such a way that I'll say if or when that happens, we can irrigate the additional space as well.
Is the intention, we don't have the article. What's the price on this?
It is 52,000.
That's where the contingency.
It's pretty, we always put a
Yeah,
contingency.
and that is, what do you say, 5 lines?
That will be, that's 5 lines down. I believe it's 5 lines down field, the big field straight down. And then there's also lines across another field.
And
There,
are these gonna be, is the intention to have these automatic?
yes, it'll all be automatic. This is a commercial system. It's
A
not.
moisture sensing system,
Yep.
so it's not gonna go off in the rain or right after the rain?
Well, hopefully sometimes those break, but we do fix them. Pond Street is similar. It is a commercial system. It's not the little 1-inch lines that you find in your yard. They're 2-inch PVC pipes.
Anyone else have any questions on that? Okay, great. Last article, Article 20. We have 2, we'll talk about the placeholder ones, but the last article is the Pond Street Recreation 3 pickleball courts. And I did acknowledge at the previous meeting, I have a personal vendetta against pickleball, but
Oh.
I'm setting it aside for the purposes of for the good of the community.
Usually you hear the word vendetta with the wall, but I understand. So we have been actively trying to find a place to put pickleball courts. Flat, accessible land with parking is not easy to find. So the Recreation Commission looked at a lot of different areas, Shire Street, down by the transfer station. I mean, we, ruled a lot of things out. And the volleyball court that is at Pond Street is rarely used.
The beach volleyball.
Yes, the beach volleyball. Yeah, so it's rarely used. And there is, I can safely say that in 25 years, I've never been asked for any kind of facility, even a 100th of what I've been asked for pickleball. It's a lot of people want pickleball. So we designed 3 courts, one to be accessible. And the great news is that where the volleyball court is, it is accessible.
That's
to
ADA accessible? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yes, ADA accessible, but we are also, you want to meet ADA guidelines, but you really want to make it inclusive as possible. So it's very close to the parking lot. We'll have a path to it, and it's an accessible pickleball court is larger than the other courts. Not the actual court, but the area around it. So that we'll have 1 accessible court and 2 other courts.
And first question, how much is this project?
Yeah, I think it was about
112.
There's 112.6 on the sheet.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Put it on there? Oh my gosh, sorry guys.
And so,
that includes fence.
The numbers are too small.
Mr. Chair, that included, the engineering, the grading, the striping,
The fencing.
Paving, the fencing.
Fencing is a big piece.
How high was the fence?
6 feet.
That's just a chain link fence or something.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any questions?
One quick.
Yes, Joyce.
So the beach volleyball court will be able to accommodate all three of the pickleballs?
We would be going it's a little bit, so it's 100 by 70, so it's a little bit larger, but it's in that area.
Okay, so
Right.
nothing else would be affected. We're just taking space from,
Right, there's
Correct.
nothing, there's room, there's still room on the left, and
Yep.
we're also looking into making an accessible path to the pavilion, which will go right along that. It's not part of this, but it'll go right along the pickleball court.
okay, thank you.
The only thing that will change, is that we're getting kind of close to the flagpole. So there was a Eagle Scout project that we made that is a sundial, a human sundial, so we may have to relocate that.
Nobody lives around there, okay?
There's a.
People cross the street.
There's across the street. They have a lot
They
going
have.
on.
They have a lot bigger orders than.
Yeah, there's no, it's not,
Pickleball players.
it's not. I don't think, there's not a noise issue.
Yeah, well, that's
for
the
that
only
part.
thing I ever hear about. I mean, I think it's a great idea. The only thing you ever hear about pickleballs, it makes a lot of noise.
These are not lit, right? So there's no nighttime pickleball going on here, correct? It's a dusk to dawn facility.
Right, unless they
Next
bring their
year-
own- right,
Headlamp pickleball?
I can see some headlights shining on that court. I can't say that's not gonna happen.
No, I think it's.
That's not your problem. That's the police department's problem. Anyone else have any questions on that? Okay, thank you. We are going to talk about, just briefly, just to sort of get a status. There are yes, go ahead, Cindy. Sure.
I just spoke to Sue Jacobs
Yep.
from the Affordable Housing Trust. She's in Florida and her flight got in late. So she wasn't able to join
Okay.
tonight because I texted her.
Yep.
If you would like me to explain from my notes, what is,
Is this a standard art? Is this the standard art? No, it's different.
it's standard with some background, but also she said she will be back and available on April 3rd, but if I can explain now, I'd be happy to.
Do you think we're gonna have questions that you can answer? That might be the best way to put it.
Don't know. You're gonna ask.
I know, and that's why I'm saying, do we get 20 minutes in this and realize we're,
No, I won't be 20 minutes. I'll read you my notes.
oh, you don't know our questions yet, so it could be 20 minutes.
Well, we'll really up to you.
Give us the highlights of it. Yeah.
Highlights are. Yes, in the past, we have given them, allocated funds to them to create affordable housing in Norfolk. Generally, what they have done is purchase existing properties and convert it. Just recently, they sold, 43 Rockwood Road, which was a creative property, it was the old Boomer real estate. And, they netted about $85,000 from that sale. So that what they would like to do is they've asked for monies to supplement that so that they can have enough to go and purchase another property when it comes available and create affordable housing. So they're using the 85 kind of as their seed money. They also have funds of their own. And so what was ours was for
It says 250,000.
and so with that money, they feel that they can purchase, prices have come down a little bit. That they can purchase something in town and push that people report. So that's kind of the nutshell.
Do you have a sense of what they look for in terms of size or?
That kind of stuff, you'd have to speak to her. I know they have a lot of parameters about how much they buy it for and how much they sell it for. There's a lot of, math parameters involved there. I think they've been buying mostly three
Three-bedroom.
homes, I believe, but again, those are questions for her, but I guess tries to be kind of the outline.
I think we should, does anyone have any questions for Cindy or do you think we, okay. I think we should plan on having her come. I think the third was the planning board stuff.
You said you should have a planning board, did we get a planning board?
Anyways, oh, perfect. All right, great.
I just wanted to be.
No, I appreciate that. No, thank you. There are two placeholders we were told about. If you're not ready to, when do you think it will have a sense that when will be, it's a when question rather than a what question, but
The way
when will they become either on or off, I guess?
CPC meets tomorrow night,
Okay.
Thursday. I would anticipate that they will be before us that evening. Town Hill, we had been kind of talking about, and we've kind of been thinking fall. And, our town administrator and a number of other people felt that it would be better to get it done sooner rather than later. So, that's why that is a placeholder. The Campbelltown Forest Trail, I honestly don't know a lot about. I just got a proposal today. I believe conservation is taking it up
Meeting
today.
tonight. Yes.
And I would anticipate they will, or someone will be presenting it to us tomorrow, but I honestly don't have any knowledge about that. So I would say tomorrow's meeting, we'll have a, yes, we're proposing a warrant article, or no, we haven't.
So you and I spoke about the engineering design for Town Hill.
Yeah, and
Sorry, you're involved in that.
she's directly involved.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You and it's a sort of a joint DPW rec thing.
Yeah, I had offered to get some
I just,
information.
we need, I mean, timing wise, we need to have something by the end of the first week of April, like a fully blown out plan that we can, numbers, rock solid and stuff like that. And it's because we just can't we can't wait, I guess is what I'm saying. So, and I'll make sure Justin understands that. And I think he does understand it. We've come up against it a few times where we're making decisions at our last meeting when we're trying to vote on stuff. That always makes me uncomfortable that we cannot get, when we're asking questions on the day we're going to vote on something, we don't have the ability to sort of think about it or deliberate on it at any rate length. It's a little bit of a concern. And this one last time, I understand there was some, there was some significant problem with the original estimate, and that's great. But I want to make sure that the new one is
So I can
locked
address,
down.
okay, so I can address a couple of
Yeah.
those issues. Some original quotes had been gotten last year at some point. And they did address some of what was needed.
Right.
But I think since that time, a lot of us have talked, and some of the key things that need to be addressed is one, the state of the electricity, as in it doesn't work. So, and we've talked, and Peter said, and I have said, please redo the whole thing, because it's very frustrating seeing, having great holiday lights and then having them out pretty much every other day. And this has been going on for years. There are also stubs sticking out of the ground, stubs that doesn't work, that flagpole lighting doesn't work. It needs to be completely redone. So that is one large portion. The other portion is, we have what looks to be a beautiful gazebo, and it is. The design is wonderful. However, it is not, the roof is coming off. We have taken major pieces off of it because it's rotted. It's only 25 years old, I think. And it's unfortunate, but it is not made of material that is meant to be, last a long time with little or no maintenance. And, we all would love to have things maintained, but let's face it, we're a municipality, and like all municipalities, we have to think about that. It's also not large enough. It also doesn't meet code, and nor is it accessible. It doesn't meet ADA guidelines. ADA guidelines are very tight.
That's just sort of fascinating that it was built well after the ADA was passed, and it's
So some of it is because of settling. So there are bricks around it, which, we've actually talked about this as well. Like, people bought the bricks, unfortunately, they're not great bricks, so they're kind of falling apart. But we would address that as well. But the structure should really be larger. We run out of room. A lot of times we're cramped in there for what we need, or we don't use it because there isn't enough space in it. So the size of the structure needs to be addressed. The accessibility to the structure needs to be addressed. The accessibility to the structure also needs to be addressed, and possibly surrounding, keeping in mind that natural grass is not an accessible route. So we just need to have, not that we don't need to redo, the entire area, but we need to make sure that whoever wants to be there can be there comfortably. So I reached out to Beals and Thomas, Dave Lapointe. I don't know if you know Dave, he lived in town for a fair amount of years. He hasn't, but he's a principal at Beals and Thomas. So I met with him and we went over everything. I do have a proposal from him that does address it, so I can give that to you.
As before we get it, has anyone else looked at it?
So it has, okay, so they're looking at it tomorrow. I have given it to Justin. It's
I'd rather,
you
I'd
can
rather
wait.
wait for the other
It's
entities.
absolutely
What's the
fine.
neighborhood of don't give me the exact price, but what's the neighborhood?
Well, I will tell you that the first two quotes that came in, one was just to kind of fix the roof of the gazebo, only address the electrical to and from the gazebo. And just to fix the gazebo, not change anything, was 27,000. To rebuild the gazebo with the exact same footprint, still do the same electrical work, no assessing and irrigation, and this includes landscaping and site furnishings like barrels. That would be nice to have on Town Hill. That was 55,000. If you added those two numbers together, you'd come up to.
So we're gonna have to go out to bid with full bidding. It's public money. It has to be
Yeah,
properly
Well, of course,
procured.
yeah,
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So it's
So
under 100,000, could be 3 quotes, I think, right?
I thought that was
No, no,
15.
no.
It's
So
50.
there is some allowance for engineering, but it would, whatever, part of this is actually
And this
preparing
is-
bid documents. I mean,
Isn't it
like,
just engineering?
this is engineering, this is schematics, this is a design. This is,
So we're looking at like 700,000. Like engineering and design is often 10%,
15% on the high end,
15%.
7.5 to 15%.
well,
I'm doing it now.
so what, before you, just wait till you see everything, because it is,
All right.
there is a lot.
Yeah, why don't we
But
wait until we get it reviewed by the appropriate authorities,
I do want to say it
when it becomes a
can be
real,
expensive.
when it becomes a real article.
It's gonna be expensive if we
revisit
do it right.
We'll-
That's not the problem.
Okay.
Let's just bid it.
Well, no, I'm not arguing. I'm just saying it's not even a real article yet, so. um,
You want to do it right. You know myself.
Okay,
We wanted to bring this in.
thank you, Dan. Thank you, Peter. And thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Welcome, did you say you're gonna have the planning board on the 5th of April?
No, whatever it is, the
Or
the 3rd of April.
We'll see you then. Thank you.
Yeah, I need to come in that day. I'm also back.
Okay. All right, great. Next week we have the schools. We did confirm with both of them. Following week following week is the planning meeting.
Next week, with all the department heads.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, thank you. Next week is the department heads on town government issues. And then the following week will be the schools. And then the week after that is planning and now CPC. Does that sound like a reasonable plan? Great. I did not introduce our new member at the beginning of the meeting. I thought I said I would. Before we recess, Jason Craig has joined us this week, along with Melissa Sear from last week. We're now up to a full complement. Very exciting for us here. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. I'll see you all next week.